clicked the wrong button. Hello, coders. I pressed the wrong button. So I was trying to get myself all set up. Hope everybody's well. I've just come back from a nice 5K run with both dogs, actually. I went out with both Murphy and Goose in the forest. And yeah, I'm all chilled out now. Got a cup of tea, got a drink. Gonna start a little bit of coding. And today, what we're going to do is work on the How to Code Well site, as we always do. We're going to work on moving the PHP sessions away from files and into a database. Whether this is going to all work today, I don't know. And to be honest, I'm not really that bothered. We're going to see how far we get. And have a play. So we're going to get back into some PHP. We've done a lot of React recently. I wanted to get back into PHP land. So let's get into the actual code of it. So I suppose I need to click on, that one. I need to get my Stream Deck fixed. I need to press buttons on my Stream Deck. Okay, so here we go. We've got the website up and running here. Don't worry about Playground. That's obviously what we do with our React stuff. We're actually getting into the PHP stuff, the Symfony stuff today. And if we have a look, this is the website that's all up and running at the minute. And locally, this is working on a single container. Well, the database is in a different container. Then you've got the container for the web server. And all that jazz. But when we get to put this on staging, because I'm doing this in Kubernetes, there's obviously going to be multiple servers, right? And so having sessions stored in a file system is just not a good idea, because you don't really know on which server the user's on. They could jump from one server to the other server depending on scale and all that stuff. And also, you get into some awkward race conditions, possibly. Anyway, so to get around this, you would store session data in a database, or say MongoDB or Redis or Postgres or wherever. And then your servers can share that resource, if you will. So this is the site. And at the moment, let's see if we can just log in I haven't actually done this today, so I've just spun the box up. So this may all fail. I hope it doesn't. It shouldn't do. But let's just log in and see the good stuff. Yeah, okay, cool. So this is logging in. Now, obviously, like I said, you're doing it off of one container, so that you're logged into the same container that you and you're using that. And so when you click around and you enroll in courses and you do things and you edit your profile and change your password and all of that stuff, the Symfony is going to go, well, you're on this session, this is your user, and this information is coming from this single source. But as I mentioned, when you move to multiple servers, that can't happen. You can't rely on a single source of truth. So what we need to do is do something like this. So store sessions in a database. This is the thing we're going to find out. SymfonyCon Disneyland Paris 2020 is on November the 17th to 18th. Just calling that out now. If anybody fancy going to Disneyland. I have never been to Disneyland. I don't have any children. And I don't particularly like rides. So it's not really my thing. Although I do know that Disneyland has a lot more things in it than just rides. Anyway, this is getting off the topic. So what we've got here is the way that they push it first is through Redis. And we're not going to do that today. We're actually going to go against the grain and do it through a relational database, which is the MariaDB. Yes, so they put Redis first. So Symfony stores sessions in files by default. So as I've just mentioned, if your application is served by multiple servers, you'll need to use a database instead to make sessions work across different servers, as I've mentioned. So Symfony can store sessions in all kinds of databases, relational, NoSQL, NoSQL, and key value, but recommends key value databases like Redis to get best performance. Okay, so then this is the example of storing sessions in a key value database, i.e. Redis. So this section assumes that you have a fully working Redis server and also have installed and configured the PHP Redis extension. Now, yes, we have this in development. Yes, we do have Redis in development. However, it's not actually being used at all. So, and so it's just technical debt at the minute. On the staging server, there is no Redis. So I haven't done anything Kubernetes wise, Terraform wise to spin up a Redis thing. So what we're going to do is go through the MariaDB documentation first, and we'll set that up. There are trade-offs. There's trade-offs. So obviously doing it through MariaDB means that you're going to clog up a connection, and also it's not as performant as doing it, say, from Redis, which is a key value pair. As they've mentioned here, it's best performance. However, saying that, Redis also has the potential for race conditions and other things, as they've mentioned, I think down sort of somewhere in here that they let me see, have I got that right? I want to make sure that I've got that right. Race conditions. Yes, here we go. So Symfony will now use Redis server to read and write session data. The main drawback of this solution is that Redis does not perform session locking. That's what I was looking for, session locking. So you can face race conditions when accessing sessions. For example, you may see an invalid CSRF token because two requests were made in parallel and only the first one stored the CSRF token in the session. So there's trade-offs. There's trade-offs. So what we're going to do is just do the MariaDB first, right? As I mentioned, if we can get, we might not be able to get all of this done today. We'll see. So let's I tell you what, let's start from here. So Symfony includes the PDO session handler. Let's have a little look at that. Let's have a little gander at what that is. It's it's this. It's this. So you can see that you've got locking mechanisms and stuff going on here. So that's all well and good. We won't go into detail on that. to store sessions in a relational database like MariaDB or MySQL and Postgres, PostSQL. To use it, first register a new handler service with your database credentials. So again, you could do this through YAML, XML, or PHP. We're gonna do this through YAML because everything else is stored in YAML. And one thing that we do have to deal with is the fact that we don't use a database URL. We've split this up into these things. So we're going to have to pass in two arguments. The first argument is going to be our PDO, this thing. So MySQL DB name, DB host, and so forth. And then what we do is we deal with the handler, and then after this, it looks like we deal with table names. But again, getting ahead of myself. So let's just take a slurp of tea. Apologies if you can hear the dogs. I will just pop out and see what they're up to because they're a bit barky. So I'll speak to you in shortly. Hello, you. They're fine. They are barking at people walking by the house. So they should do. Right. Okay. So what we're going to do is follow this. No, that's Redis. Follow this, and see how we get on, I suppose. So we do this in the config service.yaml, and we provide that definition, providing the arguments. And we're going to need to use PDO configuration, but requires passing two arguments. So we need this, and we need this. All right. Okay. Right. So let's have a play. This might be a little bit awkward, but we'll see. This goes in services.yaml. So what we need to do, obviously, first of all, let's come out of this, is we definitely need to create ourselves a little branch for this. So check out main -b, and we'll do. Do we have a ticket for this? I think we do. Yes, 128. Store sessions in a database. There we go. And I've even linked to the documentation that we're reading here. Okay, so dev and staging should use the same setup. That's crucial. Sessions are no longer stored in files, but in the database. So these are the two outcomes. I've given it 5 story points because I doubt this is going to work in the first pass, but we'll see. Also, I wouldn't mind some tests as well. So create database tests to ensure that the session table is being written to. There's no, I think that's it. Yeah. No, that's my T. Is that it? Oh, whatever. Okay. So what we need to do then is we need to go back to 128 is the port, is the ticket number. So we do port 128, and this one is session DB. That's what we'll call it. Okay, cool. So we need to get into the services thingamajiggy, don't we? .yaml. So that would live in config, and it would be in here, and it would be somewhere. In services. Gotcha. So let's bung it at the bottom. There's a lot of things going on here. So let's go back to here and steal this. Actually, we'll steal the whole thing. That's probably wise. Let's steal the whole thing, and get rid of services and that. Right then, so we got Symfony component, HTTP foundation, session storage handler, and PDO session handler. I just want to double check I'm on the right version of this, because we're on 6.1, but we shouldn't be. We are actually on 5.3. I know it's unmaintained. silly. Yeah, I should have done that beforehand. So is that the same? I believe that looks like the same thing, but we'll just copy it anyway. Yep, that is. Okay, so then we've got arguments and we pass in the database URL. Obviously, we don't have that. Or you can pass in PDO configuration, but requires passing 2 arguments. So this is what we need. This is the setup here. So we need to have, let's get rid of you, and we will comment that out. That was the wrong button. That was the wrong. Why have, that's weird. There we go. Okay, so we got MySQL DB database name, my host, and my port. Now these are all environment variables, so I wonder if we can do something like this. So env, we'll just pass these in. So this would be, let's just get rid of that to make a little bit more room. This would be database name. This would be database host, and this would be 3306, but I think, I'm not sure. Do I have a, let me just double check, move that away. Give me a second. Let me just have a look at my env file. I can't remember whether we've got, oh man, I can't remember whether we've got that as a environment variable. Let me just get back to the, what am I looking for? What am I looking for? Projects. Right. There we go. There we go. Right. So it is env. No, I don't. I don't seem to have that. We might have to hard code that in. Oh, that's a shame. May have to create a ticket for that at some point. Right, let's just put that back. Boom. All right, so this port would be a 3306. But we may have to change that when we get to different environments. So then we've got the old this stuff here. Let me just go back to the old documentation here. They do have semicolons on the end. That's fine. Okay, I just wanted to double check that. Semicolons. Right. So then again, here we would have database username, and here, and that would be in quotes, like so. And then this one we would have, you guessed it, database password. Now that should be what we need. However, I'm a little bit dubious as to this string here, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay. All right. What's the next thing we need to do? We need to. That's all done. When using MySQL as the database, the DSN defined in the database URL can contain the char set and Unix socket options as query parameter. Yeah, I know all that. That's all good. So next, use the handler ID configuration to tell Symfony to use the service as a session handler. So this is now in config packages framework.yaml, and we are using that as the handler. Have I changed this back to PHP 5.3? Yeah, I have. Good. Okay, so we need to grab that. In fact, yeah, that we need to grab that, don't we? We need to grab that, and we need to put that into packages framework. So we need to go to packages. This is in config. This is in packages. This is in framework. So that one. Aha, so we got session handler is null. So that needs to be this, I believe. So enable session support. Note that the sessions will only be started if you read or write from it. Remove or comment this section to explicitly disable session support. So no. That's fine. Okay, so that seems so far so good. So far so good. Configuring the session table and column names. Okay, so the table used to store the sessions is called sessions. Now that's creative. By default, by default, so you can change it. Okay, and defines certain column names. You can configure these values with a second argument passed in the PDO session handler service. So, I see in the okay, so this second argument here, what we've created in here can also contain other bits and pieces. So, for example, table name could be customer session, DB ID call could be the GUID. Okay, fine. I'm gonna have a drink of tea. Good. Okay, so the table stores by default. Okay, defines certain column names. You can configure these values by the second argument passed to the PDO session service. Okay, these are the parameters that you can configure. So table name, so defaults to session. The name of the session table in your database. So you've got DB user default is empty string. So the username used to connect to the PDO configuration. When using the connection based on the database URL env, it overrides the username defined in the okay, fine. So that is what we just used, right? That is what we've just used here. Okay, cool. Then we got the database password does a similar thing. That's what we've got here. Okay, and then you got the ID column. So the name of the column where to store the session ID. Column type of varchar 128. Excuse me. It defaults to sesh ID. And then you got the DB data call, the name of the column where to store the session data, column type of blob. And then the time column, the name of the column where to store the session creation timestamp. Okay, session time. And then you got DB lifetime call, the name of the column where to store the session lifetime, and that's an integer, so is that one. And then you got DB connection options, so an array of driver specific, not the ocean, specific, driver specific connection options. And then you got lock mode here, so default to transactional. The strategy for locking databases to avoid race conditions, this is important. Possible values are lock none for no locking. Lock advisory, application level locking, and then lock transactional, which is row level locking, which is what we have here. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave it by default, to be honest, to just see how things roll for the minute, and then we might configure things later on down the line. Okay, so before storing sessions in the database, you must create a table that stores the information. Yeah. The session handler provides a method called create table. Oh, that's lovely. To create a table for you according to the database engine used. So session handler create table. Okay, so you could, if I wanted to, I could create a script, I guess, a command that does this. However, I have just seen this. So if you prefer to set up the table yourself, it's recommended to generate an empty database migration within the following command. That is what I'm going to do. So run this to generate a file, to generate a migrations file. We've done all this before, that's fine. Then find the appropriate SQL for your database below, add the migration file, and run the migration with the following command. So that's what we then do. So we create the table. These are the fields that relate to those things up there, right? So you got the session ID, session data, session time, session lifetime, which are these. They are the types. So integer, blob, varchar. Is that var binary actually? What's that var binary? I've never seen a var binary before. What is a var binary? I thought it was a varchar. Hang on a minute. Varchar 128. And that's, hang on a minute. Have I just seen an issue here? DB ID col, right? The name of the column where to store the session ID, column type varchar 128. And this is saying that it's a var binary. A var binary 128. I've never even heard of what that is. So let me just see what that is first, if that does exist. A var binary. A var binary, variable length. Okay, what is a var binary used for? That's probably good. Binary, var binary, and var binary max are the binary string data types in SQL Server. These data types are used to store raw binary data up to a length of 32K minus 1 bytes. The contents of the image files, so like GIFs, JPEGs, and format files. Var binary type is similar to a varchar type, okay, but stores binary byte strings rather than non-binary character strings. I don't know what that is. Well, you know, I've read this, but I've never used one before. Interesting. What is the max size of a var binary? Interesting. I'm a bit thrown because it says here session ID var binary, and this is a session ID varchar. This is for Postgres. For SQL, MySQL, it is a varchar. So the only one that's using a var binary is MariaDB and MySQL. I don't know whether this is a problem. Like this could just be a typo, or this could be an actual thing. But it's not actually mentioned in the documentation. Like here, it's saying that the ID col is a varchar. So it should be a varchar, right? But this is saying that it's a var binary, and yet Postgres and Microsoft SQL Server are varchars. Although saying that, session data is an nvarchar. Okay, all right. I'm going to hold my hand up and say this is above my knowledge, and I'm just going to use what they have and go with it. Yeah, fine. It's probably a problem with the documentation. This here is throwing me somewhat, where it says column type varchar. Anyway, let's move on. So what we need to do is generate a migration file, and then we need to dump that in it, and then we need to run that, and then that should be it, right? I guess. Okay, let's have a little play. So I'm going to grab some tea first. And let's have a little play, shall we? So we can see that on screen. That's good. Let's do a bash. Bash. Let's get into the container here, and let's do a bin console, and let's just run that for a second. We're looking for a doctrine migration generate. That's what we're looking for. Generates a blank migration class. Okay. So we're going to run bin console, and we're going to generate our migration class. That's going to then create us this file here, which will be in src. In fact, I'll just find it. I'll just find it. There we go. It's in here. So this is our blank file. Let's get rid of that for a sec. Right. And then what we need to do on up is create the data, the thing. So we need to do this. So we do this add SQL, and we can do SQL is equal to the string, and then we can just do add SQL in here. Let's tidy all that up. Yep. Move that in a wee bit. Right, so that's the string that we want to add, and then this is the command that we want to do. And then on down, what we should do is do a this add SQL, and we want to do a drop, right? So we want to do a drop, do all caps drop table, and the table name is sessions. Of course it is. Like that. Drop table sessions. Boom. Okay, so this is nut migration. Please modify it to your needs. Get rid of all that stuff. Okay. I'm just going to check the other migrations for similar things and just see how. I mean, I know that they do them all on one string, but that's automated, isn't it? So I need to get my thing. I was doing some YouTube shorts. That's why I've got rid of all my navigation. That's what I'm looking for. This thing here, because then you can just click into that, and there you go. Okay, so yeah, let me just have a look at this. This is like a create table author type job. I'm going to just copy that, and we're just going to bring that over here. I just want to see the difference. So it's using single quotes. It's all on one line, which is fine. We are using backtick still. And we are commenting out or escaping those. Okay. I think, though, that does look okay, so we're going to roll with it. I reckon we're going to roll with it. I mean, we'll know as soon as it fails. And to make it do the thing we want it to do is we would do migrate. And it will let us know you're about to execute a migration in the database. This could blow up in your face. Do you want to do it? Yeah. And it passed. So at this juncture, I can probably have some more tea, and then check the actual database and see if it's there, and then have a look at the database, logging in, logging out, and just seeing what, if it's actually in use. Because if we go back to the documentation, that's fine. It now goes into MongoDB, and then it stops. So that's it. That's the documentation done. So it's now a case of just, did this do the thing that we wanted it to do? So I'm gonna get into. Don't know why it hasn't found. There we go. Yep. I'm going to get into the container. So we do docker compose, no, docker exec, and it's db1, I suppose. MySQL minus u is root minus p, and then use how to code well, and then have a look at the table. So we'll do describe sessions. There we go. That's our sessions table. That's our sessions table. We shouldn't have anything in there. So if we do select all from, that's not all. Have to forgive me from, I'm terrible when it comes to switching keyboards. And during the working day, I use a different keyboard on the laptop, and it's just, even though, just getting back to this mechanical keyboard is just a bit of a brain drain. So select all from, and then sessions. We shouldn't have anything in here. Apologies for the dogs. I think I'm yeah, don't worry about that. They're just barking. I'll go and see them in a minute if they carry on. That is okay. We didn't expect anything to go in there. So let's see if we can log out or do something. So let's hit log out. It's probably going to be a bit weird because I've logged in as a normal file-based session user, and now I'm logging in. Wait for that to roll. Cool. Let's hit login again. Right. I'm going to just have a little look. I'll be jumping forward and back from this a bit, I think. Let's log in. It's taking noticeably longer. That's strange. I expected something in there. Do I? Oh, wait. I probably need to clear my cache and do various things, to be honest. Yes. All right. Let's do a bin console cache clear. Because it's probably still using the old cache. Yeah. And there's a little thing I need to do after the cache clearance just to settle down the permissions, because I'm doing this as a root user rather than the user that it should be used as. I must sort that out. So churn -r wub. And it's var cache and var log. Okay, cool. Right. Okay, so that's empty. Oops. Ah, no. Sorry, use to code. Well, get there in the end. What do you mean unknown database? How to? And then it is our select query. Okay, cool. Right. Okay, I will magically log out and magically log in again. There shouldn't be anything in here. Nope. Right, now that's good. Let's log in again. And see. Ooh, here we go. Here we go. We got some records. We got some rows. Booyah! Yeah, so we've got some stuff. That stuff is good. So we have a serialized, it looks like a serialized object here, which is our token user password user. So sorry, a username password token. That is the password that we have. That's encrypted, and then we have the user itself. So the user entity, and then we have the username. So it works, but for testing, what we could do is we could log in with a user, and then we could take a look at the database. We could select take the record from here, and we could just ensure that the user is the same as the user that's logged in. I mean, that's probably a good win, I think. Excellent. And role user, role customer, that's brilliant. I like it. Okay. Let me have a little fiddle on So is that the ID session? Let's have sesh ID. Let's just grab that a minute. So let's do a select sesh ID from sessions. There, that is the ID. Okay, fine. Okay, so that's just a random ID. Yes. So I suppose I would get, from the test perspective, I would look at the session time. Sesh time. So if we did select sesh time from session, oops, from sorry, sessions. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to log out. Bye bye. And then I'm going to log in again, but as someone who isn't a free test user one. Let me just make sure that the status of this. Okay, so that's the second test, that it gets removed from the session table after it's been logged out. So first test is I'm logged in. Does the session table hold the same user object to the user object that I'm logged in as? Test 2 is once I'm logged out, does that session disappear? That would be awesome. Okay. Right. I'm just going to grab a cup of tea, but I'll be back shortly, and we will work through the tests. This is going smoother than I thought. Touch wood that it's going to continue this way. So I'll see you very, very shortly after my cup of tea. Okay, I'm going to just lower the desk. Fancy sitting down. Okay. All right. Okay, so we have the database set up, and I would like to do a little bit of testing. Because there's a lot of black magic that's going on under the hood, which is fine. You know, this is what we use frameworks for. But for things like upgrading Symfony, upgrading PHP 8, all of that stuff, I just want a little bit of peace of mind that when I upgrade these things down the road, I have something that just checks that things are running as they should do. And these are only just light tests. They're nothing like too strenuous. These are just like, you know, can you log in? Once you've logged in, is there a session in the table? Does that session in the table hold the user information that you should be there? And then when you log out, is the session table wiped out? So, I think what we can do at this stage, though, is we come out of the container, is we'll just commit what we have here. So if we do git status, we have our migrations file. Don't worry about our playground stuff, because that's that shouldn't even be here, to be fair. We got our framework.yaml changes, and we got our services.yaml changes. So let's have a little quick look and see what they are. So if we do git diff of website, and we'll do website, we'll do config, we'll do packages first, and we'll do framework. So this is applying the session handler, the PDO session handler, to the session. So I'll just grab that as a reference, and we'll do a git commit -m, and we are running off of port 128. Oh, I probably need to add these, right? Let's do an add of website config. Thank you. Packages and framework. Thank you. Bit slow on the uptake there. Git status, that should now be green. And then we do git commit -m, and we do port 128. That's the ticket number. Adding PDO session handler to session handler ID, and it is this file here. I'll just copy and paste it. Good stuff. And the next one is git diff of the website config services this time. So this is right. So we can get rid of this because this is not required. We can also get rid of that comment as well. So let's do that first. It's always good to go through your diffs and just to see what you're actually committing. So we can get rid of these two. That's what we're saying here. We'll get rid of those two. All right. So this is adding the PDO session handler. So again, I'll copy that to our services file. Yes. So we'll do git commit -m. We'll go back into this, and we'll do config, and we'll do adding to services.yaml. Yes. Okay, git status. Right, so now we've got our our migration file. So we'll just add that. So this is an src migrations, and then it's that one there. And we'll do a git diff of that as well. So we'll do, whoopsie, git diff of website src migrations, and then version 22.202.808. There we go. And was I not using git? No, I wasn't. I wasn't using git diff. Silly bugger. Right. Oh, wait. What? Ah, because it's a new file. That's why you can't diff it. So let's have a look at it. Can't diff it. So it's here. Right. So we've got get the description. We have a return for that. So there's no description. So we could add the description in here. So we have here version. So none of them have descriptions. So it's not like we're doing anything different here. Okay. Do we need to have the is transactional? I don't think we do. And then that's the SQL here. That's what we add. And then let's drop table sessions. Do we need to have? No, we don't need to have that. We don't need to have a quote, semicolon on the end, do we? Don't think so. No. No, it's just a quote. Okay, that's fine. So I think this is all right. I mean, we know it works. We've tried it. So let's add it. So git status, git commit minus m again, and this is going to be adding sessions migration. Sessions table migration. Be a little bit more defined there. So website src migrations, and then that's it. Good. Okay. There's nothing else there. Those two red things are not. We don't worry about those today. So that's good. So now we can work on the test. So I guess what I'm looking for would be an integration test in the database. And the test, so for example here we have test user has a premium account. We have course enrollment test. That's probably a better one to look at. So we'll grab the service doctrine, get manager, and then we find the user by email. So that's getting the repository here, and then checking if it's enrolled. We need to do something a little bit more than that, because we need to first log the user in. And this is done through extends unit. Unit would be. It's a codeception test, of course it is. Let me just see if we can see for codeception Symfony login. I know I've done this through APIs and stuff, but let's just see client authentication. Right, so here we go. Token is equal to new user password token. Passing in that, then we set the security by the favorite firewall. We serialize that. We set the cookie. Let's just have a little look at that. How to simulate an HTTP authentication in a functional test. Starting from Symfony 5.1, a login user method was introduced to ease testing secured applications. See testing for more information. If you are still using an older version of Symfony, view the previous versions of this article. So we are, unfortunately. So we're going to have to do this. How to simulate a HTTP authentication in the functional test. Using a faster authentication method only for tests. So this is using, say, basic auth. So authentication requests in a functional test can slow down the entire test suite. This could become an issue, especially when tests reproduce the same steps that users follow to authenticate, such as submitting a login form or an OAuth authentication service. This article explains the two most popular techniques to avoid these issues and create fast tests when using authentication. Using a faster authentication mechanism only for tests. When using the application using a form login authentication, you can make your tests faster by allowing them to use HTTP authentication. This way your tests authenticate with a simple and fast HTTP basic method, whilst your real users still log in via the normal login form. The trick is to use the HTTP basic authentication in your application firewall, but only configure the firewall used by tests. So here we have basic main. HTTP basic, Tests can now simulate HTTP passing their username and password as server variables using the second argument of create client. The username and password can be passed per request on a request basis. That's interesting. Or if your application uses more advanced authentication mechanism, you can use the previous trick, but it's still possible to make tests faster. The trick now is to bypass the authentication process, create authentication token yourself, and store it in a session. The technique requires some knowledge of the security component internals, but the following example shows a complete example. That can adapt to your needs. So here we go. Default controller. This is a crawler requesting the admin. It's making sure that the status code is okay, and it's making sure that we have an admin dashboard in the crawler from the crawler. This happens after the login, so this is like a post login step. So we run the private login here, and we have session equals self-contained container get session. So what's this? This is a web test case. This is extending. Somehow fetch the user, e.g. Using a user repository, define the firewall that you want to use and the context. Then create a token. So we have our user password token passing in the username, firewall and the roles. So you may need to use a different token class depending on your application. For example, when using guard authentication, you must instantiate the post authentication guard token. Then we set the this to the session. So we got security firewall context, and then we serialize that. So this here is what we see in the database. This is our user password token. This here, if we go to this and have a look, that we see this in here. So we have Symfony components, security core authentication token, user password, username password token. That is the same as what we're seeing here. Username password token. It's the same, same deal. All right. So we save that, and then we deal with a cookie. So we pass in the session, the name of the session and the ID of the session as the cookie, and then we set that in the cookie jar. So there's a lot to digest there. I guess what we need to do is take a couple of steps back, and actually think about what it is that we're trying to do. And at what point do we want these tests to be to fail? What point do we want to be notified? Ideally, we want to be notified at the lowest point, so the smallest unit of work, which means that it's not really an end-to-end test. So it's not as though someone is going to just type in the test shouldn't be, hitting the login page and then typing in the username and password. So that's already handled by Cypress tests. So if any of those fail anyway, then we got problems. So I would expect all the Cypress tests just continue working, which means then we could technically bypass that process. We could create our user and we could set that to session, and then what we would do is we wouldn't need to worry about this so much. We would save it into the session, sure, but then what we would do is we would then do another repository call to the sessions table, and then pull out that, and then check that they are the same. That's probably what I would do. So with this, then this is through web test case. Now the question I've got is, do I have the ability to hit that through Codeception? Because if I believe my Codeception integration suite here has Symfony enabled. So should I just copy this and go? Well, first of all, let's take an even bigger step back and think about actually getting these tests to run. That's probably the best thing to do. So let's just get into here a minute, and then let's do a we don't need to create a new window, we could do it in here. So let's jump on to bash for a second, and then let's do bin codesep run its integration. So this should run our integration tests. He says. Yes, okay, so we've got 135 of them. I will just wait for some of them to run. So there we go. Right, we'll kill that. Now what we'll do is we will create our own. So they're running all of these tests here. So I'm going to create a. Should I do it in security or should I do it in database? Security, database, security. Let's do it in database because it's checking upon a database thing. So I'm going to just copy that, paste it in, and we're going to change this to be, instead of user test, we'll do session test. Okay. Yes, and we'll change this up to say the thing that we need to do. So session test. Let's get rid of the skipped thing. That's fine. Let's get rid of all of this stuff. So this is test. We'll do test. Session is created. All right. So we're not going to use a data provider for this yet. We'll give it a group of session, and we'll call it session is created. Right. Okay. Let's get rid of anything. These two. This here. We don't need that provider. We don't need these. But what we do have, in fact, let's just get rid of that. We do need that. So we need the entity manager. Sure. Let's get rid of view. That's finding the user. So let's do user is equal to repo find one by, and we'll give it an array, and we'll pass in email. Do I have find by email? That would be so much easier. Find by email, I do. I thought I did. Find by email, and we'll pass in the email that we want to look for. So we'll use the user that we logged in as here. So we've got, where are we? Where are we? I'm looking for the email address here. Yes, there we go. Right, so that's the email address that we want to find the user from. Then what we want to do is kind of follow the same thing here with our login sort of procedure. We'll do this all in one method to begin with, and then we'll move it out into something else. So we need to define a firewall name and the firewall context. So I think, well, do we need to do that? Yeah, we need the firewall name at this point. At what point do we need the context? It's on when we set the session. Aha, okay, fine. Fine, because we do need to save it. Okay, right. So, all right, so that's fine. So we've already got the user, that's great. We need to get the session out. So we can probably do this by grab service session, I think. So if we did session is equal to you, oops, and change that to be session. Hopefully this is going to be okay. And then we can define the firewall name and the firewall context. If you don't define multiple connected firewalls, the context defaults to the firewall name. Firewall context. It's the firewall name. Right. We'll have a little look in a minute. So we've got you and we've got you. Okay. Now our firewall is not that, I doubt. If we have a look at, if we have a look at config, and I think it's in services. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's in security, I think. Yeah. The firewall, we've got main here. We've got CMS. I think, so it's going to be main. And then we've got the access control stuff. So it's going to be main. Okay, so it's going to be main. And I believe that's the same as well. I believe. Right. So then we get the we create the token. So we do this by, it is username password token. We pass in the user. We don't give any credentials. We pass in the firewall name, and we get the roles off of the user. And then after that, we set the session and save it. So I guess at this point it's been saved to the database. I think. Is there any way to check that? Because at the moment, you see, if I was to hit that, what do you mean it doesn't exist? What? Select all from sessions. Oh, right. Yeah. So this is something I got to look out for. So when we run a migration, we obviously update the database schema, but the database schema needs to be set to the dump file. Otherwise, when we run the tests, it reverts back to that dump file. So if the dump file isn't updated, then it ain't gonna work. So before I do anything, is I need to see, I ran those tests, and those tests, after each one of these tests, the database gets reverted back to the known dump file, and the known dump file doesn't have this table in it. That's what I mean. So to do that, there is a make-file that I haven't touched in a while, so this might not work. And it is think. It is DB. There's DB test backup. It's not. Yes, no, it is going to be that. So this is Docker compose. No, it's not that. Test restore. That's restoring it from the dump file. That's resetting it. So that's drop database force console create. So that's reset. That's creating. This is loading it from the DB rebuild or running DB rebuild. Is that what we need to do? That's the yeah, it might be that actually. Test load. So that does bin. I need to refresh my mind as to what this does. So it drops the database, creates the database, migrates the database, loads the database, loads in the course notes. And then, so that's what that does. Test load. Here we go. Test DB test rebuild. So it does all that stuff, and then it does a DB test backup. DB test backup. DB test backup does this, and it so it puts that into the dump file. Got it. Okay. So I need to test this. I need to do that. That's what I need to do. Got it. I haven't used this in a while, so this script. So I need to clear out some of this stuff because I've created like lots of little commands that I was only ever using like once. Okay, so this is make DB test rebuild. There we go. All right, so it's dropping the database now, creating it. It's going to migrate it. It's going to use that new migration that we've just created. Purging the database, creates all the fixtures. I've got to put in my password for the database, and then we should be good. If we did a git status now, we should have a dump file in our tests. So let's add that. Let's do that. So git add of website tests. Come on. Getting a bit of a lag there. Data dump. Right. Git commit -m port 128. Good. Okay. So that's that sorted. So now in here, I guess we need to make a database call to the session table, pull out that token, and then make sure that the token is the same as what we've just put in. I'm gonna, because there's quite a lot going on here, I'm gonna do a self assert same 1 and 1, right? Just to get this to fire out. And this session is created, so we'll just run this test. I just want to see what happens. Now we've created the table. It should be empty. So I just want to see what happens when we actually do the test. Yeah. So it might not. It might populate it and then remove it because Because of the after hook, but we'll see. So we get into the container again. So let's go to bash, and then let's do a bin code set run integration -g, and that. Right, let's run that again. So this is our running the test. Session is created, and we'll just monitor this. Okay, so now it's wiped. All right, so you saw that drop there. That's because we're wiping the database, and then it comes back. So, but it's not saving it. It's not saving it. So maybe what we should do, or maybe it was saving it, but we didn't see it because it dropped. So what we should do is let's just try and let's do a exit here. Let's try that out for a minute. So it is that. So now it doesn't exist, doesn't exist, does exist. Okay, so I was hoping to see a row in there. Maybe this session doesn't do the actual saving. To deal with the database, we would do repo. Well, we would do entity manager. We would do get connection. That's what I would normally do. Execute query. Passing in the query string. I'm going to have to just double check some documentation on how to do this. So I want to create a raw SQL query. That's essentially what it is. So doctrine raw SQL. Can't spell anything today. Yeah, get connection, execute SQL, the SQL statement, the entity manager. Yes. Yeah, okay, so let's create our SQL. So this is going to be select all from sessions. There we go. And that will be the SQL that we pass in here. And we'll do, I know that that's deprecated, but we'll run it anyway. What does that return? It returns an int. That's not what I'm after. Statement. Entity manager. Execute. And then statement. You can use fetch type column. Right. So get connection, that needs to be prepare. That is our statement, sort of like a statement of intent. There we go. So that's been prepared, and then we do statement execute, and then we do statement apparently all of this stuff is all not available. Let's just do fetch all. Is this all deprecated? Deprecated. Use fetch all numeric, fetch all assoc, or fetch first column instead. Fetch all numeric, fetch all associative. Okay, fine. Let's try that instead. Sorry. Apparently that's deprecated too. Use result, fetch associative instead. What is result? So yeah, I think I'm using the old stuff. But let's just keep it simple for a minute. I can adjust this as we go. Let's just get something to run. What does the inherited document return? Mixed. Fine. That's to be expected. Okay, so and then we'll do a var dump and we'll see what the data is. All right. Actually, no, that's not right, is it? I need to do code sep debug. That's what I need to do. And I need to do this in -vv. Here we go. Call to undefined fetch all. So transaction cancel, all changes reverted. That's the dump file. Call to undefined doctrine fetch all on the statement. So it can't hit that for some reason. When we hit execute, do I need to? No, I don't. That doesn't return anything. Okay, deprecate, execute, and fetch all are deprecated. See my answer for more information. Instead of using step execute, we need to use execute query or execute statement. It returns a result. Okay, fine. So that would be execute query returns a result. Execute statement returns an integer. So it is here's the prepare statement get connection. Execute query fetch all associative. So this is, let's get rid of you. Fetch all associative. And then that's the result. Okay. Right. Okay, so we have an array of nothing. So I'm kind of thinking now, maybe this isn't actually saving it to the database. It's saving it to the session, but it's not saving it to the database. I guess what we need to do is actually tell it to do that. So once we have this, do we need to hook into our PDO session handler, I suppose? So if we went, if we from here, if we did a, let's just do n is equal to new whatever that is. Yep. And then this would require the PDO stuff. Fine. And we've got create table, we've got open, read, update timestamp, write. This is what we need to do. This is what we need to do. We need to write to it, don't we? And then we need to read it. Yes. So we need to obviously log in and stuff, but that's fine. And then when we write to it, that is the session ID, and then that's the data. So we know the data because that's already the thing that's been set, which is the serialized thing. So let's do session data is equal to u. We can put that into here, and we can put. In fact, I don't even think there's any need for any of this, but let's just go with it. We need to come up with a session ID. So when we set off of the session, so session grab session, which would be let me make my life a little bit easier. So that would be at var session, and it would be the Symfony component session, and it would be the session here. Right. So when we set it to the session, that is the session name. That is the session name, and then that's the session value. Okay. Okay, but we want to have the session ID, right? So when we write to it, we want the session ID, not the session name. And the session ID is there a way of generating that from here? Session destroy, read, validate ID, do destroy, do read, open, save path. So there's nothing here that generates the ID. Do read, do write, do destroy, validate ID. New session ID is equal to data or session ID. New session ID is empty. New session ID is empty. Okay. Does it matter though? Does it matter what the ID is? I mean, could we not just do blah blah blah? I mean, it's a test, right? It doesn't matter. Yeah. So we're just serializing this. I don't think we need to worry about this, so I'm going to comment that out. So we can just comment that out. Then what we do is we instantiate a new PDO session handler. We've got to pass in the creds and stuff, sure. So that would be the PDO or DSN and then the array of things. So that would be the same setup as what we have in our, this stuff. In fact, I'm wondering, this is a service, right? So what I'm thinking, instead of instantiating it, can we just inject it? That would be nice, but I don't know how I would do that from the test. I don't think that is possible. However, we can do grab service, right? Can we do grab? What is it called? Yeah, it's a service. It's a service. So could we not do this? Could we? I don't know if this will work at all. I have no idea if this is the thing that we need to do, but because the service ID. Could we not do this? Could we not do PDO session handler? And could we not pass in a PDO session handler class like that and pop that out? And so this now becomes at var PDO session handler, PDO session handler, PDO session handler. Yep. So this now becomes PDO session handler, and we want to do a write, and we pass in whatever we want for the session ID, as well as the session data. Now there is a validation routine, isn't there, on here? But remember, we're not testing this file. We're just testing that the integration works. So we're not worrying. We're not testing the stuff that's already inbuilt. I just want to make sure that with session ID, if that is equal to null and session data, then the new session do write session do write this do write. This do write is abstract. Oops. This do write. So there must be something that extends this then, right? There must be something that extends this. That's the abstract session handler. No. I don't want to be doing the abstract session handler, do I? I want to be doing this. Here. That's what I want to be doing. And we have what do we have in terms of construct? That's fine. We've got create the table. That's okay. We know about that. We've got is session expired. We've got open, read, GC, do destroy, do write, passing in the session ID. So we use a single merge SQL query when supported by the database. Okay, fine. So there isn't anything at the minute to check what the session ID is. So it could be the fact that we can just pass in a string. It is a string, yes. So that's fine. And then these are the update statements to write it to the database. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to do. That is the timestamp changing. That's closing of the class. Connecting to the PDO itself. That's private, so we can't access this, obviously. This is a driver alias map. Amazon RDS for some weird reason. All right. Okay, I'm glad we're not using that. Just because that's a pain in the ass sometimes. Begin transaction, committing, rolling back. Do read. Passing in the session ID again. Bind the parameters. So it looks like we can pass in anything we want in terms of what the session ID needs to be, which is fine. So, okay. So, right. Let's get back to this. So here we do write, and what write is doing is it's going session ID do write. So we could bypass all of this and just do write, I think, because it's public. So we could just do or maybe not. I thought it was public. Wait, I thought it was public. I thought it was public. do? No, it's protected. Okay. Okay. Well, that would make sense because, yeah, fine. That would make sense. Okay, so hopefully we can just do write, and then that'll do the thing that we need to do. Okay. And then we need to do the searchy search. We could probably get around this, to be honest, because we got the session handler. We could probably do PDO session handler read and pass in the ABC thing, but we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. So let's just use this for a minute and get the output. Dump that to the screen. Let's just see if that throws any wobblies. So at the minute there's nothing there. Let's run this again and see what happens. No, it's failed. And if we were to run this, it's empty. Okay. So we have here recommended solution, set it to public. Whoa. What's going on here? Service is required by codeception, but is not loaded by Symfony since you're not using it anywhere in your app. Oh, okay. Recommended solution is to set it to public in your config tests.php.yaml. Okay. So fine. That's a shame. So in our config services test.php, let's try that. So it would be in config. It would be in, well, services is where we're at here, but we need to see if there's the ability to do config services test. Why is there .php.yaml? That's strange. So yeah, we need to set this to public, I think. Do I have an example of that? No. Something to do with the auto wiring, as I think. Let me just have a little look at this a minute. Symfony services public. How to create service aliases and mark them as private. That's kind of the opposite of what I want to do. Marking services as public. How to create marking services as private. Marking services as public or private. Here we go. Right, so when defining a service, it can be made public or private. If the service is public, it means that you can access it directly from the container at runtime. For example, the Doctrine service is a public service. Got it. But typically, services are accessed using dependency injection. And in this case, those services do not need to be public. So unless you specifically need to access, a service directly from the container via the get command, the best practice is to make your services private. In fact, all services are private by default. Okay, you can use this control to option on a service-by-service basis. Got it. So we did service equals true. So we're in dev mode at the minute, so we will put this in dev for the time being. So we'll do... Is it literally just public true? Yeah, I thought so. Public true. I haven't done this in a while, so let's have a go. So let's run that again. May have to clear the cache and stuff. What's all this? Aha, call to member function prepare on null. Okay. And let's just see if there's anything in there. No, there isn't. Okay, so call to a member function prepare on null. So this is a problem with the prepare statement here. Prepare on null. So we do the get connection prepare. So that get connection is returning null for some reason. Get connection. So we're grabbing the service entity manager. maybe okay, I'm going to just get rid of that for a minute, and we're going to read ABC here, and we'll just see what this does, because maybe we can't do this through the test. Let me just see this a minute. So we read, and that returns a string. So we do, let's do stored session is equal to you, and we just run that, and then run this. Still complaining about prepare. Why? I've removed it, so why are you still complaining about the prepare statement? Unless this is something to do with the PDO. Ah, yes it is. Yes it is. Okay. So it looks like I do need to, instead of injecting it through this, it looks like I need to actually instantiate it and pass in the things. The things. So, okay, that's fine. Let's give that a go. That would also get around the putting it public issue as well. So it's not a problem with this stuff. I thought it was, but it's not. It's a problem with this stuff, which is here. So what we want to do is, instead of pulling it out as a service, we want to do a new, we want to instantiate it. So new PDO session handler, like so, and handler. Oops, that's wrong. Got it. And we need to pass in the creds, I think. So the creds would be PDO and the array. So if we went to, this is all a little bit involved, isn't it? If we go back to services, yes. So let's get rid of that for now. Let's grab all of this for a second, just so I've got something as reference, and then put that into here. So where it gets to the this part here, we need to have, what is that? What is the data type of that? It is a PDO string or null. Okay, so it's a string, fine. And the string would be this. Got it. So session test here. So we do PDO config is equal to this one. Now, obviously, I need to deal with the configurations, and we'll probably put this in as a config thing. And then what we do is we have an array here which has the database username, which is our env username. So I will change all this in a minute. So we'll just pass that in there. We have our database password that we got in here. Again, I will deal with that as well at some point. Once we, there's a lot of tidy up work we can do, so that's fine. As there always is on this project. Right, so in terms of getting all this stuff out of there, we have database name is equal to get env database name. We've got database host is equal to get env database host. We've got database, what's that? We got database port. Database port is equal to our 3306 port. And then we have database username is equal to get env database username, and we have our database password, which is equal to get env, oops, no, get env database password. Lovely stuff. Oh, I think I did see a port there. Anyway, we'll just keep it like this. Just keep it light. So that goes into here. This goes into there. Then the port gets here. So we can do we could do that. Then what do we need to do? We need to do the host. That is this here. So we could do that. And then we've got the database name, which is this one here. I think this all is okay. So we've got the PDO config that we pass into the session handler. We've got the username, and then we've got the password that we pass in as configuration options. That then instantiates the new PDO session handler, and then we write to that, and then we read from there. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do data here as well. And then we have our usual thing here. Okay, let's give that a go. I'm not sure if this is going to work. I don't know. It might be that the credentials aren't in this. Yeah, it might be that the credentials aren't seen by same issue. PDO session handler on 845. I've got a feeling it's something to do with the fact that this stuff needs to be set through the codeception config, I think. In here. So we've got all of this stuff here, right? And do we have... I thought there was a way of passing in environment variables from here. So if we go to unit, we have that, that's fine. Yeah, so we've got Symfony app, right, and then in functional in command. I thought there was a way. API. I'm sure I've done it somewhere. I mean, I know that I've just had a look at some config that we don't use anymore because we're using Cypress, but I'm sure there is a way of doing it. I'm sure there is a way. Let me see. I mean, to be honest, what we could do right now, we could hard code these things right now. So, for example, the database name would be how to code well, just to see if this is okay, and then we can, take a step back and sort that out. So this is how to code well. The host would be just DB. The port is 3306. The username is root for development, and the password is test for development. And then that should be all of that. How to code well, yep. So let's give that a blast. and see if that does anything. No. There must be something more to this then. So this is on 845, right? 845, and that's going into here. And 845 is is it 845 or 854? 854, let's check that. Yeah, here we go, prepare. So this PDO is null. Ah, wait. Didn't I have to do a connection first? Isn't there a... Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe that's what I need to do. So when we do this, and we instantiate the handler, we're not actually making a connection. It doesn't appear that we're actually making... No, it's not. We're not actually making a connect. I should read the code before I use it, right? So what we need to do... Deary me. So we could do this and then probably... there must be some way of create... There's create table. But there must be a way to make the connection. There must be. Save path, session name, validate session ID. I'm pretty sure I saw a connect call at some point. Get connection. Get connection. Disconnect. It's all protected. Yeah, that's private. So at what point does that get called? This is in PDO session handler. So at what point? So on do read, that's protected. Does it do it on writes as well? Get connection, connect. Construct. Connect. Open. Open. There we go. So if the PDO is null, then it connects and then it opens it. Got it. Okay, so what do we do with the save path and the session name? What's going on here? I don't know what that would be. Open. But this calls this connect with either the DSN, which we don't use, or the path. And the path, so that would be path. Ah, that's the path. Got it. And then that's the username and password. Okay, okay, okay. So I think what we need to do is we need to go open, right? This is the path. And then the session name, I don't know what this would be. Session name would be this, right? If we were to go back to, if we were to go back to the old session, how that does it, that would be the session name, right? So you would have this. So let's do session name is equal to this here. And we would pass that into there. Okay, cool. All right. And then, so I could probably do all this using environment variables. That's fine. I could even probably do all this through injection. Right, that's the session name. So when we call open, open does the connection and then returns the the parent. So that's a Boolean there. Fine. So at this point it's open, which means that we can write to it and then we can read from it. Okay. So I think let's have a play. Let's see. I'm learning here, so this was all fun. All right, what are we doing? Here we go. Here we go. Yay! Look at that. Right. So this is what's been pumped in. Got it. That's what's been pumped in, and we have our user, and the user has the username. That's the username that we want. Cool, but returning the array is empty, and let's just see what this, that we have got something here which is the same as what that is, right? It would be, sure. So that would be the user, right? Okay, all right, so we're getting there. This is not returning anything. This is returning the stored session when we do read. Okay, so the question I suppose is, do we want to read it from here, or do we want to read it from the database? Because the stored session that comes back is this chunk of change here. I'm thinking we need to go a layer above, because this is a database test. All we're doing at the minute is we're saying, open the connection, write me a session, read from the session. Is it the same thing? You may as well class this as an accessor test, really. What I'm interested in is, did it actually get into the database or not? With the read, it's reading it from. It is doing a do read, and that is. I mean, that I'm going to have to go up to the next level, aren't I? So this is here. So we do a do read. This is, I think this is, yeah, this is hitting the database. So it is making a database connection. However, I'm not interested in testing this because this is already someone else's code, right? I'm more interested in testing that my sessions table is working, is configured correctly. So I'm less inclined to use this, and I'm more inclined to use this. But this isn't returning anything. For some reason, I don't know why. There's a lot we can tidy up here. I appreciate it. We can get on and tidy up this later on, but let's just see if we can get a working test running first. So we have SQL here, select all from sessions, and we're doing the prepare, and we're executing the query, and we're fetching all associative. Can we do something else than this? We've got fetch all associative, we've got fetch first column, fetch numeric, fetch one. Let's do that. Return the data back. At the moment, it looks like it's returning a blank array, which is a bit worrying. So I'm just gonna comment that out for a minute, because we know that's already been going in there. So let's just run this. So I'm more interested in this blank array now than this stuff. Okay. So that. This is very bizarre. Let's do that again. Because we know that there is something in the database. For every time I do this test, it's deleting it and then re-adding it. So there we go, it's in there. However, when I try and access it manually, I get a blank array. So I'm a little confused. These 3 lines of code aren't doing the thing that I expect it to do. Get connection, prepare that SQL, and then get the query, execute the query, and fetch everything. See, select all from sessions is what we're doing here, right? select all from sessions. There's nothing different apart from it being in uppercase. Do I have to define the columns? I don't know. I don't think you do. Let's go back to here. BDO session. No. All right. Let's see if we can. Let's think about this for a minute. So it is executing doctrine raw SQL. There we go. So execute raw SQL using doctrine 2 from a non-default connection using raw SQL Symfony 1. Okay, so that's how they used to do it. This fella Dylan has rightfully said that in DBAL 2.13 these are deprecated. PDO fetch column execute. You can change the fetch type to suit your needs. Yes, he's mentioning it here. It's a fetch. Fair play, Dylan. Everybody, do not use this. I like it. Execute query returns the object. It's no longer recommended use. Okay, so let's have a look and see. So we do a select all from, so this person is doing last name from app user. So, okay, just as a little side test, let's see if we can just put in, what was it, sesh ID. Let's just run that and just see. It might be that I need to put in the column names. I don't know. I doubt it though. That would be weird. No, it's still a blank array. Bugger. With parameters. Return result. Why do I think that this is not the same problem? Query. See the docs. Delete all. Execute. Select all. Get manager. Yeah. Why is this not working? There must be something. I must be doing something silly. What's that returning? That is returning a result. Okay. So data, no. Fetch all associative. Fetch all associative. It returns a list or array. Returns an array containing all the results represented as an associative array. I mean, that is what I need, right? That is what I need. So why is this not playing ball? Is it because we're in test mode and this is just not doing the thing we need it to do? Wait. That's entity manager, get manager, right? And we need get connection. Do we need to do this? Do we need to do doctrine is equal to this get wait, what's the grab service? This tester. Got it. This tester grab service, and this is doctrine. Right. And then do we do doctrine at this stage rather than in the entity manager? Because look, these are all, and then here, I'm wondering if this, let's give that a go. Maybe that'll be the thing. I don't know. Perhaps not. it'll throw an error anyway. Yeah. Right. Service doctrine is required by Codeception, but not loaded by Symfony since you are not using it anywhere. Fine. Get. Do I do get connection here? Don't know. Right. What have I done? Oh, you idiot. You moron. You've uppercased the D. You silly bugger. That's not right. And it probably is get manager, but although saying that, it has returned it still returned an empty array, but it didn't cause an error, which is interesting. Very interesting. I might see what that actually is for a second. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do this with the debugger on, right? So this test grab service doctrine get connection. The connection is too big. We statement prepare fetch all associative. I'm going to just see if there's someone who's done this before. So we do test. So let's do Codeception. Doctrine get connection. Doctrine 2 and Codeception. There must be someone who's done this before. So yeah, that's fine. That's good. Get the status. Refresh entities. I see in database. Is there anything in here about raw? No. I think I did see something though on Google. Codeception. Raw connection. Doctrine 2. DB connection. In order to have a database populated with your data, you need raw SQL dump. Connection is done by database drivers, which are stored in Symfony. Functional tests. Cannot prepare database with run before. Let's try that. Okay. Nope. Connecting to multiple databases with Codeception, beginner's guide, test-driven, functional tests, speeding up your schema. Nope. Okay. Query generation. I see in database. Can we do that? Because that would be so much easier than all this rubbish. Can we do this tester tester I or C in database. I can. Oh, you legend. Right. So I see in database passing in the table of sessions, and there must be a grab as well, right? So that's C in database. There must be a grab. I see numbers. I don't see. I grab column from database. I grab from database users email address. That's the table. That is the, don't know what that is. Grab from database. This I think is what we need. I grab from, from database, passing in the table name, and then, oh, the column. I see. So the column would be sesh data. I grab from the database the column sesh data, and we're not going to give any comparison expression can be used as well. Okay, interesting. I grab from database. So can we then do stored session is equal to, where have I used stored session before? Probably on the read, right? Stored session, yeah, on the read. Okay. So we grab it from the database, sessions, that's the database table name, I think that's right. Session, sesh data, yes it is. Yes it is. So we get the stored session from there. Right then, let's see if we can get that to play ball. Have we got, right, let's get rid of all of this stuff. Let's comment that out for a minute. Let's do it properly by how Codeception does it. So grab from database, sessions, getting that. That is our stored session data. Let's see if this does the thing that we need to do. It does. Look at that. That is the data. Excellent. And this is the same as the read. But as I said, we're not testing that. We're testing that this stored session is the same as what that is. So yeah, so we can get rid of all this rubbish. We don't need any of that now. And I guess what we could do, there's a couple of things we could do. We could read it and then compare that and this. So we could do that. That is possible. We could also unserialize this. So okay, first of all, first of all, let's do that. So first of all, we want to read that, and then that is PDO stored session, and then we pull it out of the database and we compare them. So we can do we can say, well, if that and that is the same, then we're good. So I'll just comment that out for a minute. So that's, I mean, it's testing other people's work, but it's at least we can see that the things in the database. Let's just try that. So we'll save that and then run this. And the whole point of me doing this is that, you know, we're getting to a point where we need to upgrade Symfony, obviously, because we're running off of a very old version of Symfony. There we go, it's passed. But in order for me to get to that point of confidence, there are some things some really important things in Symfony that I haven't yet tested, such as the session handling. So that's the first test. That's cool. So that's passing. So let's just tidy this up a bit because this is horrible. So test session is created. That's kind of a bit of a lie. Do we need this? Do we need to save it? I don't think we do. Let's just get rid of that for a second. So let's just see if we can tighten this up a bit. Yeah, that's fine. So we don't need the session. That can go away. Okay, we do need the session name though, how it's being created. We do need this, I think, because we need to get the user. And we do need these two. We certainly need this and the connection details. We might be able to get away with injecting this in. So we might be able to do something like I did before, where we do this is the PDO session handler class, and that becomes this. Let's just comment all that out. Apart from, we're still going to need, we're still going to need that, aren't we? So once we've created that, is there a way of getting that out? So if we did PDO session handler, is there a get or anything? Let's just sort that out so the IDE knows what it is. So let's do @var, and this is this is PDO session handler. Right. So we've got is session expired, validate, GC, destroy. No, there is nothing there. So we will need to get PDO config, which has all of this stuff, unfortunately. So we do need that. So let's, which means that we do need all this. Oh dear. Yeah, that sucks. So we will need to pull this back, which then puts in question, do we actually, should we be doing this or instantiating it? It's probably best then to instantiate it. And it's probably best to pass this in as environment variables. Okay. All right, let's just run that again, just as I've made a couple of changes. Let's just make sure that that all lines up. Yep. Okay, so we'll pull this in from environment variables then. We'll probably do this in the before test. And then, yeah, so this would be, let's do that now. So this would be get env, and this would be database name. And that would be database host. And that would be database username. And that would be database password. Good. What's going on there? Oh yeah. Right. Right, so again, made that change. So let's just run the test, see if that still passes as expected. We can probably get rid of the VVs now. Yep. Okay, so that's fine. So I can do this in the before and then inject that in. That's fine. And then, yeah, because I'm going to need another test that does all this. So let's do that now. So let's do a public function. And it is a before. And we'll set this up as a private PDO handler. So this, if I can get my scroll to work, this can go in the before, and we do this PDO handler. I can't spell handler. There we go. I'm going to stand up a minute because my neck is starting to hurt after my run. Bear with me a minute. I'm just going to lift the desk up. Okay, so, right. Okay, so this here is the PDO handler. PDO session handler. So we can get rid of that. Right, and then down in here, we can then do this PDO handler. It should be called PDO session handler, to be fair, to explain what it actually is. PDO session handler. Take out the second handler. And then this is PDO session handler. And so we open that. We're going to need to set this as PDO config. Private PDO config. Which is this here. Because when we open it, we need to pass that through. Yeah. Because we need to open it here. Good. All right. And then that would be this, and then that would be this. Right. So that's slightly tidier. Let's now see if the tests still pass. Yep. Cool. Right. Okay, so what else can we do? So that is, right, we need to tidy up the name. So session is created is not really a good enough name for this test. What we're doing is we're actually checking if the session that we've created, ABC, is the same when we read it. And I know that we're just testing the PDO session handler, which isn't our code, but I think it's worth it for an upgrade when we upgrade. So we can test. So how should we? We can do test PDO write and read, and we'll do session write and read. Okay, so we'll do session PDO okay, good. Write and read. So when we get to here, take out the VVs. PDO write read. Okay, so that should be the first test. PDO write and read. Good. So PDO session write and read has passed. Fine. So I want to do another test now where we're actually checking that the database has the same token as what the user has, because this is testing the session handler and I want to test the actual database. So we're going to copy this and we're going to paste it underneath. and we instead of getting this, we're getting the. We're writing it to the database. We're opening the database. We're writing it to the database. We're grabbing the stored session, and what we want to do is so this is testing serialization. That when we serialize the token, the session data is the same. Yeah. So we want to do a stored token is equal to unserialize. Sorry. Get rid of that a minute. Unserialize. Right, so we want to unserialize this. And that's going to return mixed. Now that should return this. So we could do assert instanced of, first of all. That the stored token is the same as this. Yeah. So this is PDO session, test PDO session stored token. Right. So we're checking that that's the instance of, but we should also, well, let's get let's run this first. We'll just run them both. So we'll run session here. I don't like it when it freezes like this. I don't know what this means. Is it going to pass? Is it going to fail? Why is it taking so long? Come on. Let me just double check my logic here. So stored session is what we've grabbed from the database. And we want to make sure that that is the same. Wow, why is this taking so long? Is it because there should only be one row in here? Okay, this is weird. It just seems like things have locked up a bit. Something is not functioning as it should. What's going on? Okay, I'm going to kill this. I don't know why it's taking that long. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Let's, it might be because we're calling the sessions the same thing. So, like, let's just do ABC1 as the session ID on that one. Let's do let's do let's test this one individually. It might be because I tried to do both of them at the same time, or you know, one after the other. Let's do that. Got it. Okay. Assert must be a class or interface name. Argument 1. Oh, sorry. This here is going to be mixed. What did I? What was that? Was that why, and why is that failing? Must be class. What was sent to it? Right. So perhaps that is null for some reason. I guess what we could do is use the codesep debug and actually find out what the damn that is. See, I thought that would unserialize it and turn it back into the class. But it appears... Oh, am I not doing it with VV? It appears that nothing is returned. Yes. Oh, no. Stuff is returned, but what is it? Is it the user rather than... No, it is the user password token. So, argument 1. Oh, hang on. Oh, what a silly idiot. That's expected. I've got these round the wrong way. That's expected and that's actual. Sorry, I had this round the wrong way. That's why. So if we remove that now and then run this, it should pass. Wonderful. And so this therefore, oops, this therefore. Why do I come on this one? Yeah, this is. Let's move that back over. Oops. Let's move that back over to here a minute. Yeah, so at var stored token is username password token. Right. Because with stored token I can now do get user. So this is stored user. Excuse me, stored user is equal to you. And from here I can then say stored user get email. Wait. Well, get username. It's going to be an interface, isn't it? Yes, it's going to be an interface. I mean, we could do this, I suppose. So this is where's my var user is the class, stored user. So this would be get email. And we would make sure that not only are you who you say you are, well, yeah, we would make sure that assert same, the email that's been stored is, get that right, is this. Yes, Yes, this is it. This is what we need. So we don't need that because that's that's fine. So we could say test PDO session has stored user. Be a bit more specific. PDO session has correct email. Right. Okay, let's fire that away. Oh, hang on. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. Let's just do let's run this, and then I'll run both of them together. I'm still a bit dubious as to running them both together because we had that weird freezing thing going on there. So we'll see. This should pass. That does. Let's also run. So this is PDO session has correct email. We'll has correct email stored. Saved, in fact. That's better. Right. And I'm going to run this one as well individually, just to make sure that this still works, and then I'll run them both together. And I'm going to change the name. So this is I'm going to change the name once this runs. PDO session read right. Yep, that works. Right, so let's run them both together. And then I'm going to change the name because it's not, session is a bit too broad. So it was on the second one it froze, which it kind of appears to be doing right now. That's a bit weird. Should I be doing this? Should I be doing this once? I wonder if I need to be doing this once rather than before. Is there a... I know in Cypress there's a before all. There's a setup. I wonder if I need to do this in setup rather than before. Yes, I wonder. Let's get rid of that for a second. So let's kill that. There we go. So we're doing in setup rather than before, because we don't want to be making multiple connections, I suppose. Right, let's give this a go. So that's passed. And we're still trapped. I probably need to close the connections down, I think. I reckon I need to close them down. I reckon I need to do something like on after. So if we do public function after, we probably need to do this PDO session handler close. Let's give that a go. Yeah. Thought we did. So that closes the connection, and then with the frees up for the next one. That's cool. All right. So that's all well and good. There's better ways we can pass the parameters in here rather than getting the environment variables directly. We can pass the parameters into the class, but that might be for another day. I wanted to change the name of this. Session test is just crap. I want this to be. I'm thinking we should do stored PDO session. It's a little bit more specific. Or we could just do PDO session. PDO session test. Yeah, let's do that. PDO session test. All right. So that's a string. Let's get rid of that. So PDO session test. So this test here is to this test compares PDO read and write. Okay. And then this one here tests that we has correct has token or test stored token has correct email. There we go. In fact, we could do right. So this is PDO session now rather than just session, which makes more sense. So let's change this up. So this is PDO session. So let's flip this on its head. This is PDO session compare read and write, and then this one here is PDO session stored user token has correct email. Right, we're still doing a lot of stuff that we could do on the before. So, for example, with these two, to be honest, we don't need to use the entity manager after we've got the repo. So we could, well, no, because we're doing it from the grab. We're using that. So we could move these two. Let's do that. So we'll do this on setup. We might as well. So we do. Let's get rid of that. And so let's do this. So this is get repository. So what are we looking for? We only need to get the entity manager to get that repository. So let's do private. Let's do user repository, because that's what it is. User repository. And then down in here, we do this user repository is that. Get rid of that for a minute. Right, so then this is then this user repository, right? And then down in here, we can get rid of that. And this is this user repository. Okay, cool. Okay. There's other things that we could do. I mean, the firewall names are the same. The password token is the same. The only difference here is that the session ID is called differently. But I think we're in danger of abstracting this too much. So I think we're going to leave that as is. It means that if I wanted to test other things that like are beyond the email, I could do. I guess to really test it. So we found the user by that email address. So what I could do is I could say down in here, right? So assert same. Why don't we do this? So user get email, because that's more better, because we're using that and we're using that. So let's tidy this up a wee bit. So that can be like that, right? I mean, we could just compare the user, to be fair. But that's specifically on the email. So there we go. Get rid of you. Okay, I think I'm happy with that for now. Let's just run PDO session. Let's just run this again. That is what I've called it, right? PDO session, yeah. Right, let's run that, and yeah. I didn't think we would be able to do this all today. I honestly thought that there was going to be some problems, and although saying that now, it's failing. Okay, what's going on here? So stored user token has correct email and compares PDO read and write. Oh dear, must not be accessed before initialization. Something's not right. This tester. Okay, so what we could do then is create a protected function. Well, is this on setup? Because what we could do is do this on before. Yeah, I was going to create a protected function just to do this, but actually what we can do is a public function before. We've got an after, we've got a before, we've got a setup. It's all good. And we can do that in there. And I've missed that off there. Okay. Right, let's give that another blast. I think this should cover it, because the setup is before instantiation, and then the before is after. So we should have that tester variable. Yes, we do. Cool. We got the tester property. Sweet. Yeah, I honestly didn't think we would get this done. Honestly thought that there was going to be a little bit more involved with this, but actually this isn't so bad, and we have a test to say that it works. So I'm really happy with this. Yeah, I will. Let me deal with the commits, and then I think we'll call that a day. Let's come out of this for a second. We'll do it from this terminal here. So we'll do git status. We have, that is the only thing that we've done, is the PDO session test. So git commit -m, and this is port 128. Whoops. Adding tests for PDO session storage. Yeah, all right, and that would be website tests. Let's just get rid of this. Make some room. Website tests. It's an integration test database. And this is a PDO session test. Yeah. Boom. Cool. I'm going to just double check that that's gone up. I think it has. Right, let's push this up to the GitLab and then let the GitLab pipeline deal with it. Brilliant. I'm going to call that a day. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you've got any comments, do let me know though. If you've got any queries, do check out the Twitter at @HowToCodeWell. And I will see you again next week. Take care. Happy coding, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.